Essentially, a lot of people just encouraging me to do what I wanted to do over just doing what my parents wanted me to do. So now, like when I look back, I'm just like, damn, I'm really lucky to have had those people in my life. And not everybody has that. And I know that because I talk to many, many people who just don't have support. They don't have people that want them to succeed. And that makes me like really, really sad to think about that. So that's why like now I want to go out of my way to just help others.
What's up, everyone? Jay Miller here, bringing another Productivity in Tech podcast. My guest this week is Irma Mesa. Irma is a indie transplant that is someone who started out in Miami and made her way to Indianapolis, Indiana. And if you remember, we've had quite a few people from the Midwest on the show lately, just to show that you don't have to be in Silicon Valley to do this tech thing. But Irma is a product manager, and she has a very unique story of how she got to be where she is today. Irma is also a YouTuber who loves creating things that interest her and fascinate her, and she has been helping others in the tech space in any way that she possibly can, all a part of her life mantra. Now, before we jump into the conversation, I want to let you know that the Pit Premium membership is back, and this month we are doing something very special. If you remember my last guest, Aline Sims, such an amazing guest to have, but because I was so impressed with what she's been doing at App Camp for Girls, the entire month, those people that sign up for the Pit Premium membership, your first month's memberships will go to App Camp for Girls. So if you were interested in connecting with the people in the Pit community at the premium level, that gives you access to the bonus conversations that we have with all of our guests, as well as a few other special little perks just for supporting Productivity in Tech. Then head over to productivityintech.com/memberships, or head over to the website and click on the memberships button, and there you can sign up today. But we're not here to talk about that, so let's jump into the conversation. Here it is with Irma Mesa. I'm here with Irma Mesa today. How are you, Irma?
Doing pretty good, Jay. How are you?
I am a little flustered. As I mentioned before, I was babysitting and then trying to get everything set up, and I was like, oh no, we got to hurry and get this all set up. But I'm coming down, I'm relaxing a little bit, and I think I'm ready to have a great conversation.
Great. Yeah, me too. Excited to be here.
So Irma does a lot of stuff, and I'm just going to hit some of the wave tops, and I'm going to let you, Irma, kind of continue from there. But you've got your own YouTube channel, which I think I'm like hitting like the year mark on the subscription status for that. So you've been doing the YouTube thing for a while, but you're also doing developer mentoring and also trying to look into that whole remote work lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can touch up just a little bit about each of those. So my YouTube channel, I've been doing that for a bit, but it's kind of like I've never figured out like what exactly I wanted to do. First started with just like tech reviews and tech unboxings, and then kind of moved over into doing kind of like productivity help and self-development. And most recently, in 2019, I was like, I got to figure out what I want to do with the YouTube channel, because I enjoy being creative. I enjoy creating content and just sharing information with people that may not have gone through certain experiences. So my kind of goal is to give people information so that when they do face a similar experience, they kind of have a little bit of context and knowledge about how to approach it, or how to go about solving those challenges. So right now I'm doing a little bit of lifestyle and a little bit of productivity on my YouTube channel. So sharing how to use your time better, and how to manage your time better, and figuring out like where your time is going. And just sharing more about what I do, and how to uh, how to go about living life and your being your best self and just being like an overall good human being. So besides that, I am doing a little bit of developer mentoring and product management mentoring. So there's an organization called Built by Girls. They focus on mentoring for high school and university girls and women. So currently doing a one-on-one mentoring with a front end and back end developer, major in computer science, and it's really neat. I'm learning a ton from them, and I'm able to share my experiences. And right now, we're actually building her a web app. So we're starting from like the beginning phase of that, going through like design and product discovery, and hopefully it's doing some customer discovery as well. So really exciting to just be working with like these young, really smart folks that have extremely bright futures ahead of them. And I'm really glad to just be able to be in their lives and just if I can help one person, that's all I really want to do, which is kind of like a lifelong um, mantra I live by. And the third one I think you mentioned, Jay, was remote work. I've been working remote for like 2 years now. So, and it's by no means not like an extensive amount of time working remote. There's people that have been doing this for like 7 years, 10 years, and they know the ins and outs. But there's a lot of misconceptions about remote work. And also, a big thing is that remote work is not really meant for everybody. It really takes like certain types of personalities to be able to work remote. But I do think in the future, just to attract more talent, a lot more companies are going to move towards hiring remote and just having a distributed team with maybe an office where people can come in like quarterly and have a face to face. So a few things that I'm working on right now, and it's really exciting. I like keeping myself busy. So um, yeah, really just looking to help others is my main thing.
So there's a lot to unpack in there, and I think the first big thing is you and I have a very similar philosophy with our YouTube channels. For those that don't know, I actually have a couple of channels. I have two. One is the productivity and tech channel that doesn't get as much love because I try to keep that one a little bit more on brand and on focus to, hey, developers, this is how you're more productive. But then I have my personal channel, which is just KJ Miller. And with that, it's like everything else that I do that goes under the moniker of like KJ Miller. I'm going to talk about whatever I want. I'm going to do whatever I want, and I'm just going to share it. And I think that was something that you mentioned in there was like, you just enjoy being creative and you enjoy sharing what you're doing. And we talked about it a little bit before we got started in the recording, but to me, the biggest productivity hack that I've always been able to give people is like, just do stuff, share what you're doing, be open to the feedback that, the good feedback that people give you that will help you continue to grow as whatever it is you're doing. And I feel like not tying yourself down to a particular field or a particular focus. One, it's absolute like algorithm suicide, and the algorithm hates it when you do that. But at the same time, I think it is the most helpful in that it helps cater to way more people than just kind of being focused on one particular application or one particular programming stack or one particular framework.
Totally agree. And I think the part that you mentioned just about trying different things and putting out content that like you really want to put out, I think that's really important. Especially when it's not really related to doing videos on YouTube and all that, but even when you look at it from a career perspective, if you're able to be a lot more versatile in your skills and not just be, like you said, just know one language or be really good at developing for this sort of platform, if you're able to use your time not only to perfect and be an expert at one thing, that's great. But if you can also use like that little bit of extra time that you might have in your day and put that towards something else that interests you and learn something and pick up a new skill and just share that with people online. I mean, there's a ton of beginner developers who do that like on a daily basis, just like they share what they're learning. And like that's the best way that you can learn, which is sharing what you know with other people. And it really creates a lot more, you're able to create of your like, philosophies will become a lot more concrete in what you believe in, and just getting different people's perspectives, I think, is really important too. So yeah, just sharing what you know, really important. It helps you grow and it helps other people grow for sure.
And you definitely show that when you were talking about mentoring people that are in college. I don't. Did you say that you had a college degree, or you come from a I guess a higher ed background?
I do. I received my bachelor's in psychology.
Oh wow.
Yeah, back in Miami where I was living before I moved here to Indianapolis. But yeah, did psychology, and it's really helped me in being a product manager, like understanding how people think and how people behave when they're using a platform. Um, but I don't think it's like extremely necessary. If I had to give an opinion on that, I don't think it's necessary to have a higher education degree by no means.
Well, like you just said, you don't have a computer science degree, but you still work in the tech space, and
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
that's great because, I don't have a degree period. So for me, it's
That's
like,
awesome.
sweet, degree
Yeah,
optional and doesn't even have to be relevant. So, and like you said,
exactly.
and I feel bad for saying that because it is relevant. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
way that you are applying the things that you have learned is it actually gives you an advantage over someone who is just strictly like computer science background. I think in ones and zeros. Like I don't, because we get that all the time. Developers have, it's like to be a good product manager, you have to speak developer, but you have to also speak people.
Oh yeah.
And if you can't effectively toe the line between like, I know what the developer is telling me, now how do I relay that to whether it's an investor or managers or, executives, you have to be able to, I don't want to say context switch, but you do kind of have to speak both languages. And I think having that non-traditional background helps with that.
100%. And this is like strictly my own opinion. Like people might disagree with me, but I think it 100% does. I think if I had never gone to school for psychology, I want to say that I wouldn't be in the role that I am in right now. And that's like that says a lot. I think psychology really like impacted the way that I think and the way that I do things. Uh, and just having that curiosity, that's what it is. Like I've always been very curious about different roles. I mean, I was in customer support, and then I moved into being in QA, and then I did project management. So like I was just always curious to try out new things and try out new roles because I didn't really know like, okay, yeah, I want to be a developer. I didn't know that. Or I want to be a product manager. I didn't have the answer for my career. So I think having the background that I have just really piqued my curiosity and how do I apply what I learned in school, and taking that into furthering my career. But yeah, I mean, I sometimes I just don't I don't think that having a degree really is necessary to figure out what you want to do. Um, and for me, I think I just have like my story is a little bit different than I think a lot of people, but I think being in the product space, like people come from different backgrounds. Like you can have an MBA or you can come from a computer science background. You can be a self-taught developer and still land in a PM role. So um, yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but
Well, it does, and a few things on that. I mean, the Nobel Prize winner for economics this past year was a Python developer, and
oh yeah, there you
he
go.
he
That's an example.
wasn't necessarily, well. I take that back. He is a Python developer, but he's not a Python developer by trade. He just uses Python to help with all of the economic and analytic stuff that he does using like the Pandas framework and NumPy and all those things. And you mentioned kind of working in customer service and all of these roles that are adjacent to active development. And again, that just reinforces the idea of being able, the more that you are able to bring to the table, the more successful you will be, even if the role that you are currently serving isn't directly connected to the skills that you have.
Right.
And I think another example of that is I have a marketing background now, and I've been working in marketing for a few years. And as a developer, it is interesting to see like, okay, I can do things with newsletters, I can do things with websites that serve a marketing purpose, but I can do things with APIs that also serve those same purposes. And I'm able to do things more efficiently than what the traditional marketing technique would ask for. So I think for you to be able to come in and say, hey, I speak customer, I speak people in general, but I also know enough about tech, and I can help make more balanced developers, more balanced projects, and how April Wenzel would put it, more empathetic and more compassionate development teams.
Yeah, I think you said it like solidly. um, I think the part that you brought up about being empathetic too is really important. I think as a developer, and just to clarify, I haven't been like a professional developer. Everything has been like on the side. So, but I have heard and read articles and talked to people where it's like really hard to create empathy um, across teams. And I'm not saying this is because of my psychology background, but I think it takes some certain type of like curiosity to want to understand what that other team is doing and to talk to those people and to communicate. And sometimes people come from roles or maybe from different companies where they just don't want to do that. They don't want to learn and they don't want to talk to the development team and figure out like what are their pain points and what are their challenges. And that's something that I really take pride in doing. I do want to understand what they do. I want to know where their time goes and what their challenges are and where I can come in. And at the same time, like I very much try to practice empathy. I have been in customer support. I understand that like it's not an easy job. So to like throw somebody a task or a bug fix and just expect that they're going to drop everything to do it because you're saying so is not right. And I think you really have to develop a lot of empathy and a lot of respect for the teams that you're working in. No matter your level at the company, it doesn't matter if you're a C-level executive or if you're just starting out, like everybody needs to have a common empathy towards all teams. I think that's really important.
Well, and you mentioned, you've never, received a paycheck, I guess, for lines of code that you've written. But at the same time, that doesn't mean anything. Neither have I. Well, I take that back. I kind of have, but not with the developer job title. Like I've written code for parts of my job that, I it was funny. I told my boss was like, well, what's your goal here? And I was like, my goal here is to not show up one day and you to never realize it. And he was like, what does that mean? And I was like, well, if I can use the knowledge that I have as a developer to automate the minutia tasks, that gives me more time to focus on the higher level things that you actually pay me to do. And one of the things that I enjoy doing is I enjoy working on my own projects. And as someone who does marketing professionally, I will admit the marketing around my own projects is not the best. And a lot of that is because I go to a day job, I focus on marketing all day. And then when I get home and I'm able to work on my own stuff, I don't want to touch marketing. And I feel like the developers who are actively writing code day in and day out are rarely the developers that you see that are publishing these amazing blog posts and doing these amazing introspectives on YouTube or on Medium. And I think Stephanie Hurlbert, who I've talked with before, like she's a business owner, like she's an executive level owner. And she's like, I'm not actively writing code all day. But then she goes home and she does these unboxings and she plays with like Raspberry Pis and Arduinos. And it's like, I'm able to have fun with this stuff because it's not my day job. And I think, again, talking about just strengthening those skills, like the fact that you can write code or you can focus on something adjacent to coding, that provides value to developers But if you were writing code day in and day out, you probably you wouldn't want to take your free time to do the things that you enjoy doing. The things you enjoy doing wouldn't be anything tech related. It would be something completely different.
Yeah, I agree with that. And just to add, I think that we sometimes we get stuck in that day to day, like this is my routine, and I go to work and I come home and I must watch TV. Um, but I really do want to encourage people, just like how you're doing, like you're doing something outside of your day job that really makes you happy, right? Like, and that's the same thing I'm doing. Like I'm coming home after work and I'm doing something that I enjoy doing, and I really do want to encourage people to give that a shot. There's no reason why you can't try to like make time outside of your workday and do something that's creative or something that you truly have a passion for. Um, and again, it's hard. I mean, jobs are tiring, and when you come home, like you want to go to sleep usually. But if you can use that time towards something productive, like more power to you. You're only helping yourself.
Absolutely. So I think I mentioned this in a tweet before. You said you're from originally Miami, but now you're in the Midwest.
Yes.
Neither one of those places is Silicon Valley. And we've had a few people from hashtag Team Midwest on the show before. What got you out of Miami and put you in, I want to say, is it Indianapolis?
Yeah, Indianapolis. So I'm originally from Miami. I have lived in Miami, well, not anymore, but lived in Miami for all of my life. And I was working at a company there that did a little bit of marketing essentially, and I was a product manager. And I had been working there for like maybe 2 years at that point. And I was just ready to get out of Miami, and I didn't know how to do it. I was just like, do I have to quit my job in order to do this? I just don't want to be here anymore. I just wanted something new, like the core of it. I wanted something new. I wanted new surroundings. And I just wanted to be in a place that had a growing tech hub. So I ended up pitching to my company, like, hey, I still want to work for you guys, but I also want to move out of the city. I don't really see myself here in the long run and long term. And they ended up approving my request to work remote after kind of showing them that I would be a good fit for that. And then at the same time, I met my partner who was living here in Indianapolis. And yeah, things ended up working out where Indianapolis was never on my list, if I'm being honest. I had heard of the Midwest. I hadn't really visited any city or state in the Midwest. And really my sights were set on going to Denver or going to Charlotte. Were like two of my top picks. And yeah, I ended up working out where my partner was living here. And it just made more sense for me to move closer to my partner. So I ended up moving to Indianapolis. I think it's going to be 2 years at this point, which is really crazy to say. And ended up working remote for the company back in Miami for about a year before I left. So the Midwest has its own misconceptions, but I will say that Indianapolis has definitely grown on me. When I first got here, I didn't think I was going to like it. But then I kind of heard about Salesforce and what they were doing and how they were just bringing a lot more of the tech talent over to Indy. And that really changed my perspective on Indianapolis itself. So really happy to be in Indy. I hope I'm here for a few more years before I try to move somewhere else.
That's awesome. And I'm glad you threw in some of the, you mentioned Charlotte. Charlotte is a place that as I've never lived in Charlotte, but I have spent time there, and I love Charlotte. I think it's a
Yeah, it's
wonderful
so nice.
place.
Yes.
Sad Nashville wasn't on the list. Neither was San Diego. I mean, come on, all this sunlight down here.
Hey, those are expensive. Well, especially San Diego. San Diego's a little bit much.
Oh my goodness. I'm still on the hunt for not necessarily the next place, but I am keeping my eyes open. By the way, anyone looking to move to San Diego, the house next to us just went up for sale. So
actually, I might have to talk to you about that after your podcast. I know somebody.
Okay, perfect. And I mean, we live like 30 minutes outside the city, but it's still like close enough that like I work in the city and we commute every day, but it's not too bad. So you mentioned earlier, and you said kind of like your life motto was, I want to just help one person, or if I can at least help one person. Go into a little bit of detail about that and how that's helped you make some of the decisions that you've made, I guess, to this point.
Yeah, I guess like backstory, I think a lot of people have just helped me in my life. So I think naturally that's something that I just wanted to give back. I just wanted to be able to help others who were in the same situations that I was in, not really knowing what I wanted to do with my life, where I wanted to go. And then everybody always asking you, like, what are you going to be with when you grow up? And like all these questions that you don't have answers to. And a lot of people just help me figure out like my path, really taking into account my strengths, my weaknesses, um, and then leading me, or at least like giving me suggestions on like, hey, you should try out customer support, or you should try out applying to web internships. With at the time, like web assistants were like a thing, not anymore. But that's kind of like the route that I took out of essentially a lot of people just encouraging me to do what I wanted to do over just doing what my parents wanted me to do. Um, so now, like when I look back, I'm just like, damn, I'm really lucky to have had those people in my life. And not everybody has that and I know that because I talk to many, many people who just don't have support. They don't have people that want them to succeed. And that makes me like really, really sad to think about that. So that's why like now I want to go out of my way to just help others. Um, and even if that's like one kid who's a freshman in college and just giving them a light into like what I do as a PM and what I do on a daily basis and who I work with and how I got here, like even letting them know that information, just sharing that with them, like that makes me happy because I just maybe like open their eyes to a completely different world that they would have never ever imagined, right? So that's kind of like why I want to be able to give back and help others. I know everybody doesn't have it, and I didn't have it for a bit, and then I did have it, and it's incredible to have people who just like guide you and support you, and just give you a lens into what they do, and allow you to be inspired by what you can make out of yourself. So that's definitely the core reason why I want to help people today. And it's a very broad thing to say, like I want to help somebody, and I keep it broad on purpose because I think that just because of just the experiences that I've gone through and the people that I've talked to, um, it's easier for me to just say I want to help somebody over. I want to help somebody over. Like I want to help somebody be a better programmer. Like I don't want to just narrow my lens into just helping one group of people. I would rather help like a diverse group of people if I can.
Definitely. And that's, I mean, I come from a military background and I live in a military town. So it's, you always have like people that you meet or like, oh, hey, my son's about to graduate high school and he's thinking about going into the Marines and like, can you just talk to him? And I'm like, I mean, I can. I don't know. Like, I mean, if there's a certain thing that you want me to tell him, I will tell him the truth. But, you find out so much just from, like you said, when you talk to people, when you try to help others, you wind up learning more in the process as well.
For sure.
And you put yourself in opportunities that you wouldn't have been able to have been in before. Like the first time I met, speaking of April Wenzel, I was volunteering to just give a talk at a local meetup, and she happened to be giving the talk right before mine. And we just started talking, and she was like, oh, your talk was really great. And, we just started, explaining more and more of what we do. And then now it's, she's someone, when I started putting my business together, she came in and really gave me a lot of guidance, as someone who had been doing it for a few years at that point. And I wouldn't be where I was today had I not just, asked for help and people actually came in and gave that help. So it sounds like both of us we were the one person looking for help and someone helped us, which was great. And now we're not necessarily returning the favor by helping teach them to code, but just helping in any way that we can.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's really awesome that you were able to meet her and she'd give you all the guidance. I'm sure that was groundbreaking, if anything.
But I mean, before then, I had no idea who she was. I had no idea about, compassionate programming. I didn't know any of these things. And I had been a developer for like maybe 3 or 4 years at that point. I think 3 years at that point. but it's always been like that, whether it was meeting Saranya Bark for the first time and, going to a cookout that she was hosting and, and meeting her and her husband, Rob, and just how they've been helpful to me with the Code Newbie stuff that they've done. And Code Newbie was how I got my start as a developer.
Awesome.
And just talking with people and always being open to volunteer and share what little knowledge I did have. You mentioned like you just talk about what you know, or you talk about what interests you. I think there are so many people that think that you have to be an expert to share your opinion. You really don't. Like I realize the level of knowledge that I'm at today is by no means expert, but it is
Mhm.
so much more than where it was when I started. And the only reason I got there was because I shared what I did know. And people were like, that's great. Now here's something new. And then when
Right.
someone that maybe knew a little bit, less than I did in a topic, when they would say something, they'd have a question. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, I was just working on that and I wrote a blog post about it. Or, oh, hey, let me show you how I solved this problem, a year ago. And by no means was it the absolute correct way to do it, but it helped them to, at least figure their problem out. And now they're hopefully going to share that and spread that knowledge elsewhere.
Right. And like you said, I mean, being an expert is such a heavy word. It means so much for some reason. And it's great to be an expert. Like those are the people that have been doing, let's say, development for 10 plus years, maybe even more. And they've been there, they've done it, they've learned those new technologies as they come out and they've had to adapt. But I've had to learn maybe the same way that you have that like my opinions also matter. And it's really hard because there's so many people, let's say on Twitter, that I follow, and they just seem like they know so much more, right? So it's kind of intimidating to share, hey, I have this strong opinion about like accessibility. And I think accessibility is means this to me, and I want to make these changes. And sometimes it's really hard to put that information out there because of who might read it, and maybe like somebody will come back at you and be like, "That's totally wrong. Do you even know what you're talking about?" But I've had to kind of like learn to grow out of that, and if I share my opinions, those are my opinions. I might be wrong, right? Maybe it's not like factually correct, but just like gaining that confidence to speak your mind. I think that's the core of what I'm trying to get at. Like being able to just speak your mind, whether that's through sharing it on social media or like going and speaking at a conference. Like you don't have to have 10 plus years of experience to tweet something out or present on a topic, right? Um, that maybe you're not an expert in. You can be sort of still in the process of learning, and that's okay. Like it's okay that you're still in that phase of your life. You're going to still keep growing, but I think it's still really important to step out and speak on those things that matter to you, even though it might be intimidating. uh, but it takes time. It takes like practice and just doing it more and more often. Like you'll just get more comfortable sharing your own opinions and being put in those awkward situations where somebody might have a totally different opposite opinion, and therefore you get into some sort of argument, right? Or not argument, but just like discussion. But both sides learn, and that's really important. It's sharing what you know, and if other people don't have that knowledge yet, like you just drop something on them that might change your perspective, or it might go over their head, or they might just brush it off. But that's okay because you still shared what you believe in. And I think that's really crucial.
Yeah. And, like you said, luckily you don't have to provide a job, you don't have to provide a resume every time you want to give like a
Right.
talk at a local meetup, that would,
Exactly.
that would be weird. But you can share like some of my favorite talks are like, I've been doing this for less than a year. I took over this project. Here are the things that I've learned. And like you don't know what knowledge you're going to present to someone that they would never put themselves in that position.
Exactly. Yeah.
And one day they're going to find themselves in that position and be like, oh, you know what, there was someone that I heard about 2 years ago. Now you're the senior developer, and they're referring to something that you mentioned when you were first starting. And I think of like, it's so funny. There's this Python command called make trans, which is a translation table like algorithm that you can use that, like, if you have one string of characters and you want them to all be replaced with another string of characters, you use that function. The only reason I remember that to this day is because, like, six of us as developers, like, just getting into Python for the first time, maybe like all of us had less than a year of experience. We were racking our brains over this like coding exercise, and we came up with the most convoluted way to solve the problem. And when we looked at the solution, it was like, or you could just use this one function and it does exactly what you want it to. So I wish someone would have had a video of that out when I
Right,
was just
right.
getting started.
Yeah, and I the same thing. I've seen talks or read articles for people who are just getting started in product, and I think that's where I learned the most. Like they're picking up on things that maybe have completely missed or haven't had the chance to experience yet. So yeah, even if you're like new to something, like write about it, tweet about it, share it. There's people out there that may be experts and may have a ton of experience, but just haven't, like you said, been exposed to those situations or those challenges yet.
Well, not to mention, like, but once you're an expert at stuff, you forget all of the little steps that you're taking. And when you're a beginner, like,
Exactly.
when
Yeah.
you tell someone, oh, hey, you need to create a for loop in JavaScript or something, like, as someone who has written plenty of for loops, I know in JavaScript there's a couple of ways that you can do it. And if I'm just writing the code and I'm not explaining why I chose one way over another way, then someone who is just getting into JavaScript, they might be like, oh, wait, what? Why are you doing it this way?
Mhm.
Or some other developer would say, oh, well, that's not the right way to do it either. You should do it this way. And by putting one method out there, you're not just getting the knowledge that you know, but you're also going to get the that feedback loop and the knowledge outside of you. So again, going back to what you mentioned before, you wind up learning as
Mhm.
you're helping someone else learn.
Exactly. That is the key. It's kind of like a learning loop, kind of like when you have like a feedback loop, where everybody's just communicating as the product is being built. It's kind of like the same thing comes to it when you talk about learning and being exposed to new experiences. If you share it, other people will just gain a new perspective, and that person will share it with somebody else, and it'll share it with somebody else. So it's like this never-ending loop of information that really, at the end of the day, just helps us grow, and just be a little bit more knowledgeable. And I think that's really cool. Like I'd want to, I want to know everything, which is not possible because my mind is only can only take so much information, um, and store so much information. So I definitely appreciate when people are willing and open to share challenges and like what not to do. I think that's also a really important thing people can talk about as well. It's just like what shouldn't you do when you lead a team of engineers, right? Um, that's helpful as well.
Awesome. Well, I think that's going to wrap up the first half of the conversation. And before we jump into letting everybody know how they can get in touch with you, I have to remind you, the listener, the person whose ears are being flooded with all of this knowledge right now, that the conversation's only half done. In a second, Irma's going to start asking me a bunch of questions that I don't think she knew about or even thought about yet. So it's going to be a blast. I love doing this part. But if you want to hear that conversation, I need you to do one of two things. One, you can sign up to become a PIT Premium member. We just relaunched our PIT Premium memberships. And one of the things that you get with that is access to all of our bonus content. But you also get priority queuing for our master classes that we're not master classes, mastermind groups that we're going to be launching later in the year, as well as some other premium content that we will be releasing each and every week and every month. And let's just say that maybe you can't afford the $10 a month or the $100 a year that is. You can also make a one-time $3 donation on our Ko-Fi page to support independent podcasting. And that can be done at ko-fi.com/J&J Media. And J&J Media is the media marketing company that I run with a friend of mine in the UK, where we help independent creators market the content that they're creating. So if you have a market, you have an idea that you have, and maybe you just need help getting it off the ground, or if you just want to see independent creativity continue to flourish, go to jnj.media, and if you go to that Ko-Fi page, then you get access to the bonus feed. But that's enough of that. I hate shilling myself, but it has to be done. Irma, please tell everyone how they can connect with you if they have any questions or if they just want to learn a little bit.
The best place to connect with me is on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter or DM me on Twitter. I should have my DMs open at twitter.com/_just_Irma. Or you can contact me through my website at justirma.com. And I'll respond. I will not ignore any comms that come in. So yeah, reach out to me there if you have any questions or if you want to know a little bit more about what it's like working remote or being a PM and all that stuff. So let's chat.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Irma Mesa. I know I definitely did. If you want to connect with Irma, do so. Get on Twitter, get on YouTube, just reach out to her. She is someone that I've known for the past year or so, and I've been trying to figure out how to connect with her more. And with the return of the Pit podcast, I had to have her on the show to talk about all the awesome things that she's doing. And speaking of awesome things, don't forget that if you sign up for the Pit Premium membership, that gives you a little warm part in your heart knowing that your first month of membership went towards helping a young lady or non-gender conforming or non-binary youth learn to develop with App Camp for Girls. Remember the first... Hey, I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Irma. I know I definitely did. Don't forget the conversation doesn't end there. So if you want to check out the after show, then I need you to do one of two things. One, head over to productivityintech.com and click on the memberships button and sign up to become a member. Don't forget that your first month membership will go to App Camp for Girls because we want to help increase the ease of access into the tech space for all people. The other thing that you can do if you don't want to sign up for a monthly membership is you can head over to our Ko-Fi page. That is ko-fi.com/J&J Media. J&J Media is the digital media company that I run, and through there you are not only supporting the Pit podcast, but you are supporting other independent podcasters doing what they do best, doing what they enjoy doing, what they love doing. 1 week of hosting is $3, a one-time fee, and that gives you access to all of the bonus content available on our Ko-Fi page, as well as private feeds that will come to you in other methods as well. A special thanks again to Irma, and a special thanks to Nadir Omawali for the use of his song, A Hustler in Spite of Myself, for the intro and outro music. But I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I know I did. I'm already looking forward to the next one, though. So that's going to do it for this week. I'm Jay Miller, and for the Productivity in Tech podcast, I hope you've been productive. I will talk to you